I, 22F, started working at Brewed Awakening, a local coffee shop, about 2 months ago. It's my first job out of college, where I majored in hospitality management. I was thrilled to begin my career in the food service industry, especially since I practically grew up in my grandparents' diner. The smell of coffee and pastries always reminds me of helping Grandma knead dough for her famous cinnamon rolls on Sunday mornings. When I first walked into Brewed Awakening for my interview, I was charmed by its cozy atmosphere. Mismatched vintage furniture, local artwork on the walls, and the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans made it feel like home. My manager, Russell, 39M, seemed nice during the interview. He had an easygoing demeanor and a quick wit that put me at ease. I remember thinking how lucky I was to find such a great first job. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of learning, mastering the espresso machine, memorizing our extensive menu, and getting to know my coworkers. Russell was patient during my training, always ready with a kind word or a dad joke to lighten the mood when I fumbled an order or spilled milk all over the counter. But as I settled into the rhythm of the job, I started noticing things that didn't quite add up. Russell treated some employees differently, especially Jennifer, 25F, who's been working here for 3 years. At first, I chalked it up to their longer working relationship, but something about their interactions made me uneasy. Jennifer always got the best shifts, never had to close, and Russell would often disappear into the back room with her for long inventory checks that left the rest of us scrambling to cover the front. I tried to brush off my suspicions, telling myself I was reading too much into things. Last Tuesday, I arrived for my morning shift at 6 a.m. to open the shop. The street was quiet, with only a few early joggers passing by as I unlocked the door. As I was setting up, flipping chairs off tables and warming up the pastry display, Russell came in looking stressed. His usually neat appearance was disheveled, and dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept much. He asked me to handle the morning rush alone because Jennifer had called in sick. I felt the knot form in my stomach. The morning rush was always intense, with a line often stretching out the door as commuters grabbed their caffeine fix. But I didn't want to let Russell down, so I agreed to do my best. The morning was hectic, to say the least. I was a whirlwind of motion, taking orders, making drinks, and trying to keep the line moving. A few customers complained about the wait times, and I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment as I apologized over and over. By 9 a.m., my feet were aching and my shirt was stained with various syrups and coffee splatters. Just as things were finally calming down, Jennifer walked in. She looked perfectly fine, her hair stylishly tousled and her makeup flawless. She was chatting animatedly on her phone, laughing at something the person on the other end said. When she saw me behind the counter, her eyes widened in surprise. She quickly ended her call and hurried to the back room. I felt a mix of emotions, relief that help had arrived, confusion about her sudden recovery, and a twinge of resentment for the difficult morning I'd endured. As I was wiping down the counter, Russell emerged from his office, looking surprised to see Jennifer. She explained that she was feeling better and decided to come in. Russell seemed relieved and told her to take over the counter while I restocked supplies. As I was organizing the storage room, carefully dating and rotating stock like my grandpa had taught me, I overheard Jennifer and Russell talking in hushed tones just outside the door. I couldn't make out everything, but I heard Jennifer say something about our secret and Russell responding with "be more careful next time." My heart raced as I pretended to be engrossed in counting coffee sleeves, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. The rest of the week was tense. Jennifer barely spoke to me, only communicating in curt nods and monosyllabic responses when necessary. Russell, on the other hand, seemed to be watching me closely. He kept finding reasons to criticize my work, a slightly overfilled cup here, a minor mistake on the register there. It was a far cry from his earlier patience and encouragement. On Friday, I was assigned to close the shop with Kevin, 28M, another barista. Kevin had been working at Brewed Awakening for about a year, and I always enjoyed our shifts together. He had a dry sense of humor that made even the most tedious tasks bearable. As we were cleaning up, wiping down tables and mopping floors, Kevin mentioned that he'd seen Jennifer and Russell having dinner together at La Maison, a fancy French restaurant downtown, the previous night. He described how cozy they looked, leaning in close and laughing over glasses of wine. I didn't know what to make of all this. Was there something going on between Jennifer and Russell? Was that why she got special treatment? I thought back to my first few weeks, how I'd admired their easy rapport and wished I could be as confident and competent as Jennifer. Now, that admiration was turning to suspicion and discomfort. I found myself thinking about my parents' advice when I got this job. They had always emphasized the importance of professionalism and maintaining clear boundaries at work. "Your job is not your family," my mom would say. "Be friendly, but remember why you're there." I wondered what they would think of this situation. To complicate matters further, yesterday morning started like any other Sunday shift. The weekend crowd was different from our weekday regulars, more families and groups of friends lingering over brunch rather than hurried commuters. I was in the middle of explaining our seasonal specialty drinks to a customer when a man in a suit walked in, a clipboard tucked under his arm. Russell, who had been chatting with some regulars, went pale when he saw the man. He hurried over, and I heard the man introduce himself as a health inspector here for a surprise visit. Russell's usual charm seemed to falter as he shook the inspector's hand. Pulling me aside, Russell asked me to distract the inspector while he and Jennifer took care of something in the back. The urgency in his voice made me uneasy, but I reluctantly agreed, feeling a knot form in my stomach. As I led the inspector on a tour of our front-of-house area, chatting about our coffee sourcing and sustainable practices, I couldn't help but wonder what was happening in the back room. I was in the middle of explaining our rigorous cleaning schedule when a loud crash echoed from the storage area. The inspector's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing. Despite my attempts to divert his attention with an offer of our signature cold brew, he insisted on investigating the source of the noise. My heart pounding, I followed the inspector to the storage room. As we entered, we found Russell and Jennifer hastily shoving some boxes into a hidden compartment behind a false wall. The room smelled musty, with an underlying odor I couldn't quite place. Russell's face was flushed, and Jennifer looked on the verge of tears. The inspector was furious, demanding to see the contents of the boxes. Russell tried to argue, his voice taking on a pleading tone I'd never heard before. But eventually, he relented, shoulders slumping in defeat as he pulled the boxes back out. To my shock and horror, the boxes contained expired ingredients, some well past their use-by dates. There were also unmarked containers filled with substances I couldn't identify. The smell that hit us when the boxes were opened made my stomach turn. The inspector immediately shut down the coffee shop pending a full investigation. As he made calls to his superiors, Russell pulled me aside. His eyes were desperate as he begged me not to say anything about what I'd seen. He offered me a raise and promotion if I kept quiet about this little mishap. The Russell I thought I knew, the mentor I had looked up to, seemed to crumble before my eyes. I left work feeling conflicted and stressed. The weight of what I'd witnessed pressed down on me, making it hard to breathe. I thought about all the customers I'd served over the past 2 months, the young mothers with their babies, the elderly couples who came in for their daily cappuccino, the students who spent hours studying at our tables. Had we been putting their health at risk all this time? I don't want to lose my job, I've got student loans to pay off, and the job market isn't great. But I also don't want to be complicit in anything illegal or dangerous. I keep thinking about my grandparents' diner, how proud they were of their spotless kitchen and fresh ingredients. What would they think of me if I turned a blind eye to this? I'm not sure what to do next. Should I report what I saw to the authorities? Should I start looking for a new job? Am I overreacting to this whole situation? The values my family instilled in me are clashing with the fear of unemployment and potential retaliation. I feel lost and could really use some advice. Edit. Thank you all for your responses and advice. I'm overwhelmed by the support and insights you've provided. I'll post an update soon once I've had a chance to think things through and decide on my next steps. Update 1. It's been a week since my original post, and I feel like I've aged a year in these 7 days. I want to thank everyone for their advice and support, it really helped me navigate this difficult situation. After a sleepless night following the health inspector incident, I decided I couldn't stay silent. The memory of my grandfather's voice, telling me that integrity is doing the right thing, even when no one is watching, kept playing in my head. So, with shaking hands, I called the local health department and reported what I had seen. The woman on the phone, Linda, was kind and patient as I stumbled through my explanation. She assured me that they would investigate thoroughly and that my identity would be protected. After hanging up, I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Had I done the right thing? What would happen next? I didn't have to wait long for an answer. The next day, I received a call from Lisa, 42F, the district manager for our coffee shop chain. Her voice was stern but not unkind as she asked me to come in for a meeting at a different location. My stomach churned with nerves, but I agreed. When I arrived at the agreed location, a brewed awakening in a strip mall across town, I found Lisa waiting with 2 other people, James, 55M, introduced as the company's legal counsel, and Rachel, 38F, from HR. The serious expressions on their faces made my palms sweat. We sat in a back office, the hum of the espresso machines a muffled backdrop to our conversation. I told them everything I had observed over the past few weeks, including the incident with the health inspector and Russell's attempt to buy my silence. James took extensive notes while Rachel asked clarifying questions. Lisa's frown deepened as the meeting progressed. After I finished, there was a moment of heavy silence. Then Lisa thanked me for coming forward, her voice softer than before. She explained that they took these allegations very seriously and that an internal investigation was already underway, running parallel to the health department's inquiry. To my surprise, Lisa then offered me a temporary position at another location while everything was being sorted out. She emphasized that this was to protect me from any potential retaliation and not a punishment. I accepted, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. At least I wouldn't lose my income. The next day, I started at the new location, a cozy shop nestled in a bustling downtown area. The manager there, Allison, 36F, greeted me with a warm smile that reminded me of my mom. She seemed genuinely concerned about my well-being and assured me that I was safe here. Allison assigned me to work with Diego, 29M, an experienced barista with an infectious laugh and a talent for latte art. As he showed me their specific procedures, I found myself relaxing for the first time in days. The familiar rhythms of brewing coffee and serving customers helped ground me. However, just as I was starting to feel settled, my phone buzzed with a series of angry text messages from Jennifer. My heart raced as I read her words, accusing me of ruining everything and threatening to make me pay. With shaking hands, I showed the messages to Allison, who immediately contacted HR. They advised me to block Jennifer's number and document any further attempts at contact. Over the next few days, I threw myself into learning the ropes at the new location. It was refreshing to work in an environment where everything was done by the book. Diego was patient and helpful, showing me little tricks to improve my latte art and sharing funny stories about regular customers. But even as I began to enjoy work again, the situation at my old location was far from resolved. Through whispered conversations and cryptic texts from former co-workers, I heard that the health department had conducted a thorough investigation and found numerous violations. The shop remained closed, and rumors were swirling about potential legal consequences for Russell and possibly Jennifer. On Friday, just as I was clocking out after a busy shift, Lisa called me again. Her voice was grave as she informed me that based on the findings of both the internal and health department investigations, Russell had been terminated. Jennifer was also let go due to her involvement in the health code violations and her threatening behavior towards me. Then, Lisa's tone changed. She surprised me by offering me a permanent position at my current location, with a slight pay increase to boot. She explained that they were impressed by how I handled the situation and wanted to retain honest employees like me. The irony wasn't lost on me. My integrity, which I had feared might cost me my job, was now being rewarded. As I walked home that evening, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Relief that action had been taken, gratitude for the new opportunity, but also a lingering sadness for the way things had unfolded. I couldn't help but think of Russell and Jennifer, wondering what had led them to make such poor decisions. I'm still processing everything that's happened. While I'm glad I spoke up, the stress of the past week is catching up with me. I find myself jumping at sudden noises and checking over my shoulder more often than I'd like to admit. The weight of the situation, the potential harm to customers, the loss of jobs, the breach of trust, sits heavy on my shoulders. I'm planning to accept the permanent position offer, but I'm also considering reaching out to a counselor to help me work through the emotional impact of this experience. The support from my family has been invaluable, but I think I might benefit from professional help to process everything. Has anyone been through something similar? How did you cope with the aftermath of reporting workplace misconduct? And how do you rebuild trust in your workplace and colleagues after something like this? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments with you all. Life has settled into a new normal, but the ripple effects of what happened continue to shape my days in unexpected ways. I accepted the permanent position at the new Brood Awakening location, and overall, things have been going well. Allison has proven to be a supportive manager, always ready with a listening ear or a word of encouragement when needed. I've formed good relationships with my coworkers, especially Diego. We've even started hanging out outside of work, grabbing dinner or catching a movie now and then. It's nice to have a friend who understands what I've been through. However, the aftermath of the situation at my old location continues to unfold in ways I hadn't anticipated. Last week, I received a subpoena to testify in a case against Russell. Apparently, the health code violations were just the tip of the iceberg. The authorities uncovered evidence of tax evasion and possibly some other illegal activities that I'm not privy to. When I saw the official document, my hands shook so badly I could barely read it. The reality of the situation hit me anew. This wasn't just about expired milk or mislabeled syrups anymore. This was serious, potentially life-altering stuff for everyone involved. I was a ball of nerves thinking about testifying, but James from legal has been incredibly helpful. He's been preparing me for what to expect in court, walking me through the process step by step. The company is covering any legal fees I might incur, which is a relief I hadn't even thought to hope for. In an unexpected turn of events, Kevin from my old location reached out to me. We met for coffee, at a different shop, ironically, and he apologized for not speaking up sooner. He admitted that he had suspicions about what was going on but was too afraid to say anything. The guilt was written all over his face as he explained how he convinced himself it wasn't his problem to solve. Now, he's working with the authorities and might also be testifying. It was a bittersweet reunion, tinged with shared regret and anxiety about what's to come. On a personal note, I've been struggling with anxiety since this all began. Loud noises make me jump, and I've caught myself obsessively checking expiration dates on everything in my fridge. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Martinez, which has been helping me process everything. We've been working on grounding techniques and cognitive behavioral strategies to manage my anxiety. It's been challenging to balance my mental health with the ongoing legal proceedings and my job responsibilities, but I'm taking it one day at a time. I've also had to deal with some unexpected backlash on social media. Someone, I strongly suspect it was Jennifer, posted about me being a snitch in a company sellout on a local Facebook group for service industry workers. The post was quickly taken down after I reported it, but not before it caused me some stress. I was hurt by the comments, especially from people who didn't know the full story. Allison and HR have been supportive, offering to take further action if needed, but I'm hoping it was just a one-time thing. Despite these challenges, I don't regret my decision to come forward. Last week, I received a message from a former regular customer of the old location. She thanked me for potentially preventing her and her young children from consuming contaminated products. It was a small thing, but it helped reinforce that I made the right choice, even when it feels like my world has been turned upside down. I'm trying to focus on the positive aspects. I have a stable job, supportive management, and I know I did the right thing. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't taking a toll on me. Some days, I feel strong and proud of my actions. Other days, the weight of everything that's happened threatens to overwhelm me. I find myself thinking about Russell and Jennifer more often than I'd like. I wonder about their motivations, what led them to make the choices they did. Were they just greedy, or were there extenuating circumstances I don't know about? It's a reminder that people are complex, and situations are rarely black and white. As I prepare for the upcoming trial, I'm trying to find ways to move forward. I've started volunteering at a local food bank on weekends, which helps me feel like I'm making a positive impact in a different way. I'm also considering taking some online courses in business ethics, hoping to gain a deeper understanding of the issues at play in situations like the one I encountered. How do you move on from something like this? Any advice on maintaining professionalism while dealing with personal stress would be appreciated. And for those who have testified in court before, do you have any tips for staying calm and collected on the stand? Thank you all again for your continued support. It means more than you know. Update 3. It's been 6 months since this all began, and I wanted to provide a final update. So much has changed, yet in some ways, it feels like I've come full circle. The legal proceedings against Russell have concluded. He pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including health code violations, tax evasion, and fraud. He's facing significant fines and jail time. Jennifer also pleaded guilty to lesser charges and received probation and community service. Testifying was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life. As I sat on the stand, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. But I took a deep breath, remembered Dr. Martinez's advice about grounding techniques, and focused on telling the truth as clearly and calmly as I could. The prosecutor told me afterward that my testimony was crucial in securing the convictions. It's a bittersweet feeling. I'm relieved that justice was served, but it's still difficult to reconcile the Russell I thought I knew with his actions. On a more positive note, I've settled into my role at the new Brood Awakening location. Allison recommended me for a shift supervisor position, which I started last month. It's challenging, but I'm enjoying the added responsibility. I find myself drawing on lessons from my grandparents' diner as I navigate this new role. Their emphasis on cleanliness, quality, and treating staff with respect has become my guiding principle. The company has implemented new training programs emphasizing ethical business practices and proper reporting procedures for all employees. They've asked me to share my experience as part of this training, which feels like a constructive way to use what I've been through. It's not always easy to relive those moments, but if it helps prevent similar situations in the future, it's worth it. Personally, I'm doing much better. Continued therapy has helped me process everything and develop better coping mechanisms for stress. The nightmares have mostly subsided, and I'm sleeping better. I've also joined a support group for whistleblowers, which has been incredibly validating. Hearing others' stories reminds me that I'm not alone in this experience. My relationship with Diego has deepened into a close friendship. He's been a rock throughout this whole ordeal, always ready with a bad joke or a shoulder to cry on when needed. We've started a little tradition of trying out a new coffee shop every month, partly for fun and partly to scope out the competition. It's become something I really look forward to. I still think about what happened sometimes, but it no longer consumes me. I'm proud of myself for standing up for what's right, even when it was difficult. This experience has taught me a lot about integrity, resilience, and the importance of speaking up. It's also shown me the value of community, whether it's my family, my co-workers, or you all here on Reddit. Last week, I revisited the street where the original Brewed Awakening was located. The space has been renovated and is now a small bookstore. As I stood there, looking at the new sign and the displays in the window, I felt a sense of closure. That chapter of my life is over, but the lessons I learned will stay with me forever. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and encouragement have been invaluable. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it in the end. And sometimes, the hardest experiences can lead to unexpected growth and opportunities. As I move forward, I'm excited about the future. I'm considering going back to school part-time to finish my business degree, with a focus on ethical leadership. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll open my own coffee shop, one that honors the legacy of my grandparents' diner and the lessons I've learned along the way. For anyone out there facing a similar ethical dilemma, remember, trust your instincts, seek support, and don't be afraid to stand up for what's right. It might not be easy, but you're stronger than you know.